sale of an ascertained goods is by description and appropriation section 23. One appropriation goods in all selection of goods with the intention of using them in performance of the contract and with the mutual consent of the seller and the buyer. Should are there the contract for the sale of uncertain goods or future goods. The goods should be conformed to the description and quality stated in the contract. The goods must be in the register. The good must be conditional or distinguished from intentions to appropriate the contract either by delivery by or his agents or the carrier. The appropriation must be made by the seller with the assent of the only buyer or the buyer with the assent of the seller. The assent may be expressed or may be implied by the course of the assent may be expressed or implied. Assent may be and ascertained by description. Assent area, the contract of an ascertained or future goods. The goods should be conformed to the descriptions and quality studied in contract. The goods must be registered. The goods must be unconditional as distinguished from being appropriate to the contract either by delivery to the buyer or his agents or the carrier. The application must be made by the seller with the agent of the buyer or the buyer with the agent of the seller. The assent may be expressed or implied. Assent may be given either before or after application of related goods to the carrier. Section 23(2). When in pursuance of the contract, the seller delivered the goods to the buyer or to the carrier or other buyer, where named by the buyer or no, for the purpose of transmission to the buyer and does not reserve the right of disposal. He is deemed to have and consider appropriated to the goods to the contract. Delivery of the goods to the carrier. Where there is a pursuance of the contract, seller deliver the goods to the buyer or to the carrier or other buyer, whether named by the buyer or the purpose of transmission to the buyer and does not reserve the rights of disposal. He is deemed to have and consider appropriated the goods to the contract. Goods sent on approval or sale of return basis. When the goods are delivered to the buyer on approval or on sale or return or the similar terms, the property will be passed to the buyer when he signifies his assent, his approval or acceptance to the seller, or he doesn't, or any other act adopting the transaction. If he does not signify his approval or acceptance to the buyer but retains the goods without giving notice to the rejection, then if a time then time has been fixed for the goods to be returned on the expiration of such times, and if no time has been fixed for the expiration of reasonable time. If he does some things to goods which is equivalent of example he pledged or sell the goods, मतलब उसने goods बेच दी या तो उसने goods अपने जेब में रख लिया, भाई कद्दू दे मेरा वापस, अब कपड़े पहन के पार्टी में चला गया, फिर कह रहा है कि मेरे को पसंद नहीं आ रहा है, तो भाई एक्सेप्टेंस होगा। आऊँ घर ने बबुआ फिर गाम नहीं आना है तो बोल पे चोरी की गेला गाम नहीं खड़ा है लोग सच्चे बदुआ बदल हमारे जावन मेरे मेरी एक जीवन मेरा नाम नहीं बना है और a buyer under a contract on the basis of sale or return aims to exercise his options when he doesn't act exercising dominating goods with a third party failure or inability. The to the returns the goods to the seller does not necessarily implies actions to the buyer. Sale for cash only or return. It may be noted that where the goods have been delivered by a person on sale or return on the term that the goods were to the remain of the property of the seller till they are paid for the property, the end does not passes to the buyer until the terms are complied with, that is cash or paid. Cash or paid for. The buyer under contract on the basis of sale or return is due to have exercised his options when he does any act exercising dominating over the goods showing an unequivocal intention to buy. Example, if he pledges the goods with a third party, failure and ability to return the goods to the seller does not necessarily imply these sections. Sale for cash only to return. It may be noted that the where the goods have been delivered to the person on the sales or return on the term that the goods were returned to remain the property of the seller till they are paid. The property in the end does not pass to the buyer until the term are complied with the cash or paid for. Reservation of right of disposal. The section preserves the right of disposal to secure that the price is paid before the property goods passes to the buyer. Where there is a contract of sale of specific goods or where the goods have been subsequently appropriated to the contract, the seller may, by the term of the contract, Or appropriation as the case may be reserved the right of dispose of the goods until the certain conditions have been fulfilled. In such cases, in spite of the fact that fact spice specific goods or the goods have been subsequently appropriated to the contract. The seller may, by the term of the contract or appropriation, as the case may be, reserve the right of dispose of the goods until the certain conditions have been fulfilled. In such case, in spite of the fact that the goods have been already delivered to the buyer or to the carrier or the bailey for the purpose of transmitting the same to the buyer, the property will not pass to the buyer till the condition imposed. If any by the seller has been fulfilled, section 1 X sends furniture to company by a truck and instruct the truck driver not deliver the furniture to the company until the payment is made by the company to the property passed only when the payment is made. तो जो राइट ऑफ डिस्पोजल में रखा है बोला है कि भैया अगर पैसे नहीं मिले तो कद्दू में रख देगा. Circumstance on which the right of disposal may be reserved. In different circumstances, it is present to have right to the reserve the right of disposal. If the goods are shipped or delivered to the railway administration for carriage and by the bills of lading or railway receipts, as the case may be, the goods are delivered to the border to the seller or his agent, and the seller will be prima facie deemed to have reserved the right of disposal. Section 2. Where the seller draws the bills on the buyer of the price for the price and send them to the bills of exchange together with the bills of lading as or as the case may be. The bill railway receipts to secure the acceptance of all payments. All payments. Like subscribe कर देना भैया. Bills of lading or as the case may be, the railway receipts to secure acceptance of payments. There the buyer must return the bills of lading if he does not accept or pay the bill. And he wrongfully retained the bills of lading or the railway receipt, the property and the goods does not pass to subsection 2. It should be noted that the section 23 and section 5 deals with the conditional application and distinguished from the conditional application detailed with conduct. दहलीज पे मेरे दिल की लिखी मेरे न सिक्का मैंने जीना जीना कैसे जीना जीना कैसे जीना तेरे सच्ची सी है तारीफें जो मैंने करी है सुनो ज़मीन को मेरी यादें तेरे नाम पे मेरे Next premise I passing with the property section 26. According to the section 26, unless the goods have been otherwise agreed that the goods Next prima facie property. According to the condition, unless and otherwise agreed that the goods remain at the seller until the property then is transferred to the buyer, but when the property then is transferred to the buyer, the goods at the risk where the delivery has been made or not. However, such a notice will also lays down an exception exceptions to the rules that is allow the ownership if it doesn't provide that message केला this pair of SI with the property with the ownership the goods are the good must be bear the loss or damage of the goods unless or otherwise it agrees section 26 of the Civil Code Act unless otherwise agrees that the goods remain in the seller until the property then passes to the buyer after the event they are at the buyer's whether the deal is taken or not. Until the property then passes to the buyer is after the property passes to the passes from the seller. Of F side rule there F side rule is कितना बड़ा है इसका 55 पे हो 81 पे भाई 55 to 81 ओ ब्रो 85 तक है यार 30 पेज है इतना तो कंपनी सेट में रोल पन्ने हैं भाई इतना कंपनी सेट इतना बड़ा चैप्टर है भाई delivery has been delayed by the fault of seller or the buyer the goods shall be at the risk of partying default as regard loss which might not have been arisen but for the default the duties and the liability of the seller or the buyer as bailey of the goods for the other party remain unaffected even when the risk has been passed generally as noted about the liability or to the bear the loss in the case property is destroyed damaged or destroyed passes with ownership. The property may, however, be agreed to be spotted. For the instance, the party may agree that the risk will pass sometimes after or before the property has been passed from the seller to the buyer. Transfer of title by the non-owner. Section 27 to 23. Sale by person, not the owner. In general, the seller can sell only such goods of which he is the absolute owner, but sometimes a person may sell goods of which he is not the owner. Then the question arises to what is the position of the buyer who has bought the goods or paying rent. And the general rule regarding the transfer of title is that the seller cannot transfer a better title to the buyer for the if the seller has not the owner of the goods, the buyer also will not become the owner. That is, the title of the buyer shall be same as the seller. The rule is expressed by writing maximum namo data kudo non hapte. Namo data kudo non hapte, which means no one give he has not got. उसके बाद now. If this rule is enforced legitimately, then the innocent buyer may be put to loss in many cases. Therefore, to protect the interest of innocent buyer, a number of exceptions have been provided to this rule. Exception in the following case, a non-owner can convey a better title to bona fide purchaser of the goods for value. Sale by mercantile agents. A sale made by mercantile agents of goods for document of title to goods would pass a good title to the buyer in the following circumstance mainly. I wake up at 2 a.m. If he was person of the goods or document with the consent of the owner, if the sale was made by him while acting ordinary course of business as mercantile agents and the buyer acted in good faith and has at the time of the contract of sale no notice of the fact that the seller no authority to sell. Section 27. Mercantile agent means an agent having in customary course of business as such urgent authority either to sell the goods or to consign the goods for the purpose of sale or to buy goods or to raise money on the security of the goods. Sale by one of the joint owner. Section 20. One of the several joint owner of the goods has the role full possession of the goods by permissions of the co-owners. The property may be transferred to any person who buys them or the joint owner in good faith and has not at the time of the contract of sale noticed that the seller has no authority to sell. Sale a person in possession under the voidable contract. Sale a person in possession under the voidable contract. A buyer would acquire a good title to the goods sold to him by a seller who had obtained the possession of the goods under a contract voidable on the ground of coercion or misapprehension clause provide that the contract had not been licensed until the time of sale. Sale by who was already sold the goods but continuing in possession thereof. If the person has sold the goods but continuing in possession of them or the document of title, he may sell them. Such person obtain the delivery thereto. With effect without notice of the previous sale, he will be giving good title to them through the also the property has passed to the first buyer earlier pledging or other disposition of the goods or document of title by the seller is possession are equally valid. Still by buyer obtaining the possession before the property in goods good has vested by him, where buyer with the consent of the seller obtain the possession of the goods before the property in them as passes to him. He may sell, pledge or otherwise dispose of the goods to a third persons and if such person obtain the delivery of goods in good faith and without notice of the liens on other rights of dispose original right of the original seller in respects of good, he would get a good title to them. Section 32. Section 30 clause 2. Sale by buyer obtaining possession before the property is vested to him. Where the buyer with the consent of the seller obtain the possession of the goods before the property passes to him. May sell, pledge or otherwise that the property goes to the seller and is expected of the delivery of the उसको भी अच्छा टाइटल मिल जाएगा. He would get a good title. He would get a good title to that. Hसन साहब लेकिन after the payment of few installments, A sold car to C. B can withdraw the car from C. A had neither bought the car nor agreed to buy the car. B had only an option to buy the car. A took a car from B on the condition that A would pay a monthly installment of 5,000 by the hire purchase. Total option to purchase require the payment of 1 lakh in 24 installments. Effective install where the owner is installed by conducting from providing the seller authority to sell. By transfer he will get a good title as against the owner, but before a good title by stopping can be made. Here it is shown that the owner had actively suffered a handout rather presenting the questions as the true owner or as a person authorized to sell. When the seller will exercise his right of making a shortage of goods to farmer resell the good buyer and go title to the good and against the original buyer. And buying under sale under the provision property will get the purchase valid title purchase of goods from finder of goods get a valid title and after sale found you can convey a better title contracted within 72. So the contract of sale section 3144. The amount of the contract of sale and highest delivery of the definition of delivery. Delivery for it is not price delivery them by the buyer in accordance with the terms of the contract. Definition of delivery. Section 222 delivery means warranty transfer of possession or workmanship of the for the delivery. Physical position is not important. The buyer should be placed in a position so that he can exercise his right to own the goods. So that's the position taken to transfer delivery of the goods. So take on the price to hold them on the simple delivery constructed. Technical seller and the buyer section 31. It is duty of the seller to the seller to deliver the goods and to the buyer to accept pay for them in accordance with the terms of the contract of sale. Delivery of goods of three types. Actual delivery is similar to any construction delivery. Duty of seller section 1 it is the duty of the seller to deliver the goods to the seller shall be ready willing to give directions of the goods to be buy to exchange of the price and the buyer shall be ready willing to pay in the price and exchange of the possession of the goods. हाँ भाई, बोलो बोलो भाई, मैं देख रहा हूँ भाई, सबको देख रहा हूँ भाई। आसिफ आलम भाई, आसिफ आरिफ आरिफ है ना भाई? आरिफ, बोलो भाई, बोलो, सुन रहा हूँ भाई। इससे बोलने की जनरेशन ऑफ यहाँ पे था, आई एम हियर। बोलो भाई, क्या काम कर रहे हो? बता सकते हो आप लोग, इफ यू वांट टू नो समथिंग। बताओ भाई, कुछ डू इट फॉर यू। should start the night become the distracted. The section that you are sellers to seller to deliver the goods in the buyer for the order to the company contract payment and delivery of the company commission delivery of the goods and the payment of the price of concurrent conditions maintain conditions, that is to say the seller shall be ready and willing to give possession of the goods to the buyer and exchange for the price, and the buyer shall be ready and willing to give the price in exchange of the possession of the goods. The rules regarding delivery of goods, sales of goods, and handling, that is prescribe the rules of delivery of goods, part delivery, installment delivery, delivery of chain, deliver to carrier, finger, buyers to apply for delivery, delivery of wrong quantity, deterioration during the place of delivery, expense of delivery, buyer right to examine the goods. Buyer right to examine the goods, time of delivery of the goods provided buyer may be made by doing anything which the parties agree shall be treated as delivery, or which has the effect of putting the goods in possession of the goods in possession of the buyer or of any person authorized to hold them on his behalf. Effect of part delivery. A delivery of part of goods in the progress of the delivery of whole has the same effect for the purpose of passing the property in goods such as a delivery of whole, but a delivery of part of the goods with the intention of serving from the whole does not operate as a delivery of the remainder. Buyer to apply for delivery. Apart from any express contract, the seller of the good is not bound to deliver them until the buyer applies the for place of delivery. It is for the buyer to take possession, so where for the buyer to take possession of the goods for the seller to send them to the buyer in each case of the contract are half